Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Tuesday, the 1st of February. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined this morning by Johnny McFarlane. How are we doing, Johnny, after a crazy day yesterday?
Yeah, what a day, Derek. What a day. It's not every day you see a pie flying in the sky past your window, but there you go.
Yeah, we'll talk about that shortly. If you're watching us on YouTube, folks, if you haven't already done so, if you hit that subscribe button, you'll never miss a video when we go live. And we've also got that fantastic offer. It's now been stretched until Friday. What a deal it is. It's just £1 a month. £1 for an entire 6-month period for the Rangers Review site. And you also get entered into a prize draw for a signed first team jersey. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Okay, there's only one thing to talk about, and that is Aaron Ramsey has joined Rangers from Juventus on loan. Johnny, I've got to hold my hands up. Yesterday, it was my understanding that the deal was pie in the sky, and it wasn't happening. I think the majority of Rangers supporters, yourself, was thinking it was very unlikely. But it turns out Rangers have managed to bring in probably the highest profile player for me, and I know Chris Boyd and Ali McCoist agrees, since Paul Gascoigne. What's your reaction to the day's events?
Derek, I don't know if I'm like everyone else, and the guys will tell me in their comments, but I'm still sort of a bit like I can't believe that yesterday actually happened. I think part of it is because of what I think Rangers fans everywhere and people who've been covering Rangers over the years, especially over the last decade, have gone through in terms of watching the club. This feels like really, and I said this in a column I wrote yesterday, it feels like a throwback to the 1990s. And the sad thing is a lot of people who will be listening to this and watching this who don't really remember what it was like. But last night and yesterday was exactly what it was like. It was Rangers going to Italy to Juventus to agree a deal to bring in a top player. And you forgot just exactly how big a transfer can be. It was trending all day on Twitter. Aubameyang was going to Barcelona. Wasn't seeing much about that. I don't know about you. It was kind of pushed into the background, certainly on my feed. And I think just the day itself, in terms of just pure theatre, Derek, it was a magnificent piece of sort of football theatre. From the way it emerged in the morning, and I think, you're not alone. I immediately heard it, and the thing is Aaron Ramsey's wage of $400K a week, that has been publicised and published everywhere, right? I got that information I was talking about on yesterday's video from the BBC. The BBC published that he'd signed a £400,000 a week deal. That was well known. There's been a little bit of information that's come out from Italy that maybe suggests that was slightly OTT. It's all down to the different tax situation over there in Italy. Italy had a tax code that was designed to attract high earners to pay less tax. So I don't know if that sort of 400K figure that was used is based around what he would get paid here based on the UK tax code. But anyway, whatever the situation is with that, it's an incredible throwback, as James Skeen is saying there, and it just feels like Rangers have made a defining statement. And it's not really about the title race, it's about the club as a whole. It's about ambition. It's about making a statement about where Rangers are, that they can go out into the market with their fishing rod and reel in a whopper. And it's been a long time since that truly happened. People talking about Paul Gascoigne, personally, I think it's a bit unfair to Ronald de Boer.
Yeah.
Ronald de Boer was from Barcelona and was.
That was a top class player for sure. I think that the similarities come because he is British. He is coming from Italy. He is the same position. And yeah, I just think that the hype yesterday, it was crazy. We were getting sent pictures of jets flying in and vehicles heading over to Ibrox, and it was madness, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all great fun, and Twitter was just absolutely hilarious yesterday. And you've got obviously on the other side of the city, it's the same thing that happens every time. You've got the Celtic fans trying to poo-poo the deal.
Yeah, they
Rangers
will do.
fans, basically just getting on board on the hype train, and this happens vice versa as well, obviously. But it was magnificent entertainment from beginning to end. I know, Stevie Clifford, Four Lads Had a Dream, was saying that he hadn't done much yesterday because he just spent the whole day refreshing Twitter, and I think there have been a lot of people doing that. But yeah, it's. I think we'll probably go on to talk about what he can bring as a player, but certainly in terms of the boost that he brings to the club and the statement he makes as a signing, I don't think that's deniable. It's undeniable, Derek. I mean, it's a serious statement of intent. But more than that, it also makes sense or it ticks a lot of boxes from a playing point of view as well. Nobody can doubt his quality as a player, that's for sure. That is beyond question.
What do you make of this comment, Johnny, from Gary Gray? Where do you see him fitting into the team? He assumes he's a straight swap for Arfield. Maybe slightly harsh. I think Scott Arfield has been very impressive under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, but where does Aaron Ramsey fit into that side for you?
Well, listen, I've been talking about this since Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came in, and it became apparent that he was going to have more of a Dutch-style midfield rather than a flat midfield three. He'd have an anchor and two runners. And Rangers just, I don't think, had the squad depth to make that work because you had Arfield and Aribo as the runners, and then beyond that, you didn't have really anyone else that fit the mould. So bringing in Aaron Ramsey and the emergence of Lowry as well, it just gives you that depth there. So you know that if Ramsey's injured, you've got Arfield. If Arfield's injured, you've got Aribo or Lowry. There's depth in that position now. He's exactly the kind of player that Rangers needed. And this is a guy that's the prototype number 8. Joshua wrote a long piece yesterday. He spent a lot of time looking at Aaron Ramsey and what he's brought to teams in the last few years, what he can give to Rangers. And this is a guy that's just a natural box-to-box finisher who will end up on the end of things because he's a brilliant interpreter of space. He's a brilliant interpreter of the timings you need at the top level of the game. So I don't think there's any doubt that he'll slot straight into that midfield. There's only 3 slots. He's not going to usurp Joe Aribo, is he? Because Joe Aribo's the best midfielder at the club. So it's going to be Scott Arfield. But that said, I do think there'll be games when Rangers take a slightly different approach and they have that option now. Say if they want to go with 2 sitters, if they want to go with a Davis and a Kamara, they can play Ramsey in a flat 3 with those guys. They can push Ramsey into sort of more of a 10 position. They can do all sorts with that. Joe Aribo can play on the right in that scenario. We know he's very versatile. So now Van Bronckhorst, when everyone's fit, has got a lot of tactical options. And this is certainly a player that we know will help when it comes to scoring goals and breaking up these low blocks that cause every team in Scotland problems.
Yeah. Aaron Ramsey, of course, spoke to Rangers TV yesterday, folks. He says, I'm really pleased to be joining a club like Rangers where there's so much to look forward to between now and May. I had a number of offers on the table, but none matched the magnitude of this club with European football and the chance to play in front of 50,000 fans every other week. I have had some fantastic conversations with the manager and Ross Wilson, and I'm really looking forward to working with both of them and meeting the supporters. Ross Wilson deserves great credit for this, Johnny. I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said on Friday he was confident of leaving the window in a stronger place than when they went into it. And Ross Wilson certainly has earned his corn with not just the signing of Ramsey yesterday, but Amad Diallo. They brought the young Polish boy in for competition for James Tavernier as well. It's been James Sands, of course, earlier on in the window as well. John Suter in a pre-contract agreement. It's been a good window from Ross Wilson.
Yeah, and Ross Wilson said something last night which I thought was very, very interesting, which was about the wage structure, which a lot of people I think have been rightly questioning. How do you get a guy on the kind of wages that he's on, whether it be 200,000, 400,000? It's absolutely blooming enormous by the standards of Scottish football. So I thought it was interesting that he said an agreement any agreement we reach has to be within our normal wage model. And Aaron's desire to play here has enabled us to achieve this with Juventus's cooperation. So it's clear Juventus are paying a substantial amount of his wages, and Rangers are paying. I would imagine it'll have to be at the top end of the Rangers wage scale. We know that's in the high 30s, early 40s type area. So, but if you're paying that kind of money for Aaron Ramsey, I think it's an absolute bargain. I know there's a lot of journalists very close to the situation out there in Italy who are kind of marveling at how little Rangers are actually paying to make this deal go through. I know one of the pundits that was speaking to Dave Baldwin, Ramsey's agent, said again that Baldwin had described it as being Rangers have done a very, very, very good deal in terms of getting a player of his quality in. And I think it'll work for Ramsey and for the club, but Ramsey will be desperate to get himself back on the pitch. That was obvious from his interview last night that he did with Rangers TV, which I would urge everyone to go and watch. And he'll be desperate to get himself in a situation where he's playing games, game after game after game after game, so he can put to bed this idea that he's injury prone, because he has been available, Derek, for a lot of games and just been unable to get into that Juventus side under the new coach Massimiliano Allegri. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, probably not. Yeah. Allegri. And he'll want to say, look, I'm here for Wales in this World Cup. I'm at my top level, because it's going to be huge.
Yeah. Why do you think he chose Rangers? Because apparently there was offers to go back to the Premier League, and like Burnley, Newcastle was mooted as well, but he's chose Rangers. We've heard, of course, what Aaron Ramsey has said. He wants to play in front of the fans, and of course, a chance to win silverware. It's a major fill in the cap though for Rangers, isn't it? Because you see so many players looking to head down south into the Premier League, but Scottish football is now attracting one of the most sought after British footballers.
Yeah, that's for sure. I thought again his interview last night perhaps gave away a little bit about that. Yeah. He said that he wanted to play, and he wanted to play in a side that he mentioned that Rangers play possession football, a dominant. I think you look at the clubs that he's played for, Aaron Ramsey. He's been at Arsenal, who under Arsene Wenger, who brought him in, obviously played terrific football, knocked the ball around, dominant. Teams would sit in the low block against them. Exactly the same against Juventus. Is Aaron Ramsey going to get the best out of himself by going to Burnley, bottom of the Premier League? I think he would probably look at the game styles of these teams that were in for him and think, well, I've done the Premier League. Is that much of a challenge? What are the opportunities? You come to Rangers, 50,000 fans, chance to win silverware, become a legend. He'll looked at what Jermaine Defoe's done, what Steven Gerrard's done in terms of the last few years and how big a part of it their careers it has been. And I think that will have made it very, very attractive to him. So I think that is crucial, Derek. He will be able to come into this team and play and hit the ground running, because everything's there. The style of play is there. The manager wants to get the ball on the deck and knock it around. The structure of the team is already set up for a player of his style. It's not like you're putting you're taking a square peg and putting it in a round hole. It's absolutely a perfect fit. It's exactly the kind of player Rangers need. So both for the player and for the club, it just makes absolute sense. Yeah. Now there's negatives to the deal as well. There's the fact that he's 31. He's not the normal age profile for Rangers. He has had a few injuries, but when you get the opportunity to get a player of Aaron Ramsey's standing at that age, I mean, he's not 33 or 35, which is normally the age this kind of player comes to Scottish football.
Yeah.
It's very, very achievable for a player of his quality to be at a very high level at 31. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So you've got to imagine that he can continue to do it. So I just don't think that those negatives, which are there, they really cut the mustard when it comes to a detailed, balanced perspective on what Aaron Ramsey will bring. The one thing I would say, and I think, again, I'd love to hear what the guys think in the comments on this. There's been a lot of players that have come to Scottish football over the years, and there's been a temptation to sort of say, well, you know, they've done it in Serie A, they've done it in the Premier League, they'll scoosh Scottish football. It'll be easy for them. You know, if they can do it in those leagues, they'll come to Scottish football and run riot. And I think you've got to be really careful with that. You know, the one thing Joey Barton, I think, should have taught everyone is that it's not a one-for-one situation like that, because there's all sorts of different pressures. I mean, Aaron Ramsey has been at huge clubs. I mean, Juventus are enormous. But the media glare in Scotland is intense. And at Juventus, he's not a huge fish like he is at Rangers, where the focus will be all on him. So he'll have to perform. He'll have to roll up his sleeves, and he'll have to get dug in and stuck in. And you'll have to be very, very, very focused, because if you're not, you know, Scotland is not an easy environment, and Rangers is not an easy environment. People don't remember this, but Gaza, I mean, unbelievable talent. Aaron Ramsey, by the way, is nowhere near in Gaza's league as a footballer.
Yeah.
But even unbelievable talent in Gaza was really, really struggled for his first 3 months. People forget that. It wasn't working for him. And people were thinking, is Gaza past it? Then slowly but surely, around about sort of October, November, he started to find his game, and then he never looked back. But it highlights the difficulty. You know, Mark Hateley was another one, really, really struggled at first at Rangers to just find his feet. And there was reasons for that with Hateley, because he'd suffered injuries and things like that. But people will be expecting Aaron Ramsey to hit the ground running, so he has to have laser focus.
Yeah. A lot of comments coming in about whether he can play tomorrow night in the Old Firm game. He did speak about this on Rangers TV last night, folks. He says, I'm probably going to be a little bit short for the Old Firm game, but hopefully I can get myself ready this week and look forward to getting ready for the weekend, really. I've had these conversations with the manager and the staff, and hopefully we can get a plan in place to get going and back up to match fitness as soon as possible. Looks like the Celtic game may come too soon then, Johnny, for him, which will disappoint, I'm sure, many Rangers supporters. But it's all about, you don't want them playing him if he's not 100% fit, do you? And then run the risk of injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about getting him in when he can actually showcase what he can do. And it might be that the games come too soon for him. I'd be certainly tempted, if I was Giovanni van Bronckhorst, depending on his fitness, to at least put him on the bench. But maybe that's not fair. I don't know where he is with his fitness. And the club has, you know, really, really high quality medical people there who will be able to tell GVB exactly where he's at, and they'll make a decision from there. It could be that he's been a little bit coy, in the same way that I think across the city, Postecoglou is being potentially about some of his players, but whether they'll feature or not. That's not something you necessarily want to give away at this stage. But yeah, it would have been great to have got him in maybe, you know, a week ago and had the opportunity to make sure he was ready. But you know, these transfer windows, they move very, very quickly, as we know, and we know Rangers have already said that, you know, they had their irons in the fire on this one for a week or so. But sometimes you have to wait till the last minute to really put the pressure on and accelerate a deal to completion. And it looks like that's what Rangers have done extremely successfully. And as we've already said, Ross Wilson deserves a hell of a lot of credit for getting this level of deal and this profile of deal over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. One player that went under the radar yesterday, Johnny, of course, when all this was kicking off, was the Polish defender that's arrived at Rangers for competition for James Tavernier, Maciej Zakowski. He's arrived from Lechia Gdansk for an undisclosed fee. 20-year-old Poland under-21 international right back. He's signed a 3.5-year deal. It's one of those ones that I think a lot of people were they forgot really what about this player coming in, didn't they? But Rangers have added competition for that right back spot. Of course, Nathan Patterson left early in the window, so it's good to see that James Tavernier has a bit of competition again.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's competition, Derek. I think that's stretching it a little bit. I would say backup, probably more for this lad. He's not going to play a lot of minutes, as we saw. Even a player of Nathan Patterson's quality, and I do think he's a player of outstanding quality, young Patterson. I've said that over and over again. But this Polish boy, as people are saying, very quick, very aggressive going forward. Probably a player more comfortable going forward than he is defending. But that's absolutely what Rangers need. That's exactly the right profile. No point in bringing in a very, very good defender at right back when you're at Rangers, and 90% of the games you're not going to need that skill set. But it does mean that if the worst happens, and an injury to Tavernier is always a disaster at Rangers, you've got that backup in there, a player of quality. Whereas if Rangers hadn't moved in the market to get a player in, I think it's much more complex, because you're moving Leon Balogun to right back, or you're playing James Sands at right back. Obviously, Sands is a completely unknown quantity for us and for the rest of people watching, because we've only seen him 2 games in central midfield. No idea how he'd cope at right back. Leon Balogun, we know, is a good player at right back, but it's a different kettle of fish from playing 1 or 2 games at right back well and performing there for 3 months. And Balogun, we know, he's a big lad, maybe more of a Dave McPherson style type than a James Tavernier type. You're going to lose a lot of penetration, I think, and pace in that final third if you've not got James Tavernier there. And we know what he can deliver. We know his goals. We know his assists. We know his quality on dead balls. So yeah, it's important that Rangers had someone in there that they could say, should anything happen, we've got an insurance policy there that'll cover us.
Yeah. He spoke to Rangers TV yesterday, folks. He says, I'm delighted to join Rangers and to make this next step in my career. I've been so impressed with everything I've seen and heard about Rangers, and to join a club of this size is fantastic for me. I look forward to meeting my teammates and to making my debut in front of the supporters as soon as I can. Okay, folks, I think that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for getting involved with the programme, as ever. It is very much appreciated. If you're watching us on YouTube, just hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss a video when we go live. And we've got that offer on, just a few days left to take advantage of it. Just £1 for an entire 6-month period for the Rangers Review site to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. And if you sign up, you also get entered into a prize draw for a signed first team jersey. It's a cracking offer we've got on just now. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Okay, folks, we'll be back tomorrow to look ahead to the match at Parkhead. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.